Have you ever heard of a ghost army? Not in a metaphorical sense, but a literal, tangible echo of soldiers marching out of time. This isn't just a campfire story. It's a documented account that continues to baffle military analysts and paranormal investigators alike. The story begins with Sergeant Miller, a seasoned infantry leader, during a routine field exercise in a remote, historically significant training area. What he witnessed would challenge his understanding of reality. It was just after dawn. The air was thick with mist, muffling the sounds of the wilderness. Sergeant Miller was conducting a head count, his eyes scanning the familiar faces of his platoon. Everything was normal. Every soldier accounted for. They were getting ready to move out, packing gear and checking equipment. Suddenly, on the ridge opposite their position, a second group of soldiers appeared, emerging from the fog-like apparitions. Miller's first thought was that it was another unit, maybe part of a larger, unannounced drill. He raised his binoculars, a knot of confusion tightening in his stomach. As the figures came into focus, his blood ran cold. It wasn't another unit. It was his asterisk unit. He saw his own men, every single one of them, perfectly mirrored on that distant ridge. The same faces, the same gear, even the same scuff marks on their boots that he'd noticed just minutes before. They were arranged in the exact same formation as his platoon below. He lowered his binoculars, his heart pounding against his ribs. He looked at his men. They were all there, looking back at him. Confused by his sudden tension, he looked back at the ridge. The duplicates were still there, standing motionless, staring back. It was impossible. A perfect, living reflection, separated by a valley of mist. He radioed his command post. His voice strained. He reported a possible unauthorized presence, choosing his words carefully. How do you explain seeing your own ghost platoon? The response from command was clear. No other units were scheduled to be in that sector. They were alone. As Miller relayed this information to his platoon, a sense of unease rippled through the ranks. Some of the soldiers raised their own optics, and a wave of shock and disbelief followed. Whispers turned to anxious murmurs. They were all seeing it. They were watching themselves. Then, the second unit began to move. It wasn't a modern tactical advance. They marched with a strange, almost ceremonial precision. Their steps were perfectly synchronized, their movements fluid and rhythmic, like a well-rehearsed phantom drill. It was unsettling, archaic. They moved as one, not like a group of individuals, but like a single entity guided by an unseen hand. They weren't just marching, they were reenacting something, their movements echoing a battle long past. Miller felt a deep, primal fear. This wasn't a prank or a mistake. This was something else entirely. The air grew colder, and the silence of the valley was broken only by the phantom thud of boots on the ridge. The duplicate platoon marched along the crest of the hill, their forms slowly beginning to fade back into the thick morning fog from which they had appeared. Within minutes, they were gone just gone. Immediately, Miller ordered a scout team to sweep the ridge. He had to know what had just happened. He needed physical evidence, a footprint, a dropped piece of gear, anything to prove he wasn't losing his mind. The team moved out, their own movements now hesitant and cautious. They combed the entire area where the phantom unit had been. They found nothing, no footprints, no disturbed soil, no broken twigs. It was as if dozens of soldiers had marched right there without leaving a single trace on the earth. It was a physical impossibility. The official report was filed, but it was heavily redacted and classified. What could they write? Platoon encountered its own. Unofficially, the story of Sergeant Miller's ghost platoon became a legend, a whispered tale among soldiers who trained in that area. But the story doesn't end. Years later, a researcher digging into declassified military archives found something that connected all the pieces. The researcher cross-referenced the date and location of Miller's encounter with historical records. It turned out the training ground was the site of a forgotten, brutal battle from a war fought over a century ago. A unit, with the exact same regimental number as Miller's, had been ambushed and completely wiped out on that very ridge. They were caught in a surprise attack and fought to the last man. Their final stand lost to the pages of history. That wasn't all. The researcher also gained access to the GPS logs from Miller's unit on that fateful day. The data showed something extraordinary. At the exact time of the sighting, The GPS devices of the entire platoon recorded a massive, simultaneous drift event. For several minutes, their recorded positions jumped erratically, placing them all over the valley and even on the opposite ridge before snapping back to their actual locations. The system had registered a spatial anomaly, a glitch in space-time that mirrored the soldiers' own terrifying experience. So what did Sergeant Miller and his men see? Was it a time slip? A moment where the past bled through into the present? Were they witnessing a stone tape recording? An environmental replay of a traumatic event, imprinted onto the very landscape itself? Or was it something more? A residual haunting by soldiers whose last, desperate moments were forever etched into that location, their spectral forms still marching to a final, ghostly command. The incident remains unexplained. It's a stark reminder that there are phenomena in this world that defy our neat, orderly understanding of physics and time. The soldiers who saw their own doubles that day were left with an experience they could never forget. A chilling glimpse into a reality where the echoes of the past can manifest, march, and then vanish without a trace. It makes you wonder what other echoes are out there, waiting in the mist for the right moment to be seen again. Thanks for watching, and if you have any theories, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown.